This is how you operate the Energy Hall lighting controls. There are 4 touch panels located, one in each corner of the hall. When you walk up to a touch panel, usually it'll be dark if it hasn't been used in a while. Just touch the screen to wake it up. All right, so the basics of the touch panel are the navigation controls across the top tell you which zone you are controlling. Whichever zone you are controlling will be both bolded and listed in the next row. Then this is all the available controls for the zone you are controlling. And then this bottom bar is our global controls. These affect the whole room. To start with, this home icon here is actually the way to lock the screen. If you press home, the screen will now be locked, and we prefer to lock it out for events where we might not want the public to access it, or we might not want kids to mess with it. Anytime where we're trying to prevent unwanted control, we're gonna lock the screen. But then if you should approach a screen and you need to control it, it is locked. We are gonna touch this press to begin. When we touch that, it's going to ask us to enter the PIN. The PIN is the mailing address of Camplex, 1635. And then we're gonna press enter. And now we have unlocked the screen. So again, if you need to lock the screen, press the home button. If you need to unlock the screen, touch the bottom and enter the code. Oops. So to control the lights, you have options between all off or all on. These will easily, quickly control the entire room. If you don't want to control the entire room and you just want to control the zone you are listed in, you have shortcut buttons on the side. So I can turn all of the perimeter off or all of the perimeter on, and that does not affect the pods. If we have all the walls in and we are in classroom style and I just want to control this pod closest to me, pod 5 northeast is closest to the kitchen, I'm going to press that. And now I have the controls for just this room. We have lights in the center of the pod. We have the soffit lights, which are the lights around the wall of the pod. And then we have the accent lights, which are the colored lights in the ceiling. So again, I have shortcut buttons to turn all of pod 5 on, all of pod 5 off, or then I also have shortcut buttons for each circuit, so I can turn all the center lights on or off just by touching the top here. But if you don't like all on or all off and you're looking for a dim look, you have to use the slider, and you just keep your finger on the slider and move up and down, and you get the percentage readout above your finger here showing that I am at 33% if I let go right there. So we can set the lights the way we want them. To control their accent lights, we're going to touch the gear icon here, and that's going to bring up our color picker where we can select the color that we would like to use. We can use either the color picker or the color sliders. So once you get close, you can dial it in by selecting a little bit less blue and a little bit more green. Or you can, again, just jump to a specific color that you want and dial it in even more so here until you get where you like it. There is this intensity slider here. This can bite you because it will change the color as it makes things brighter or darker, but it tries to get you close-ish to where you already are. I prefer not to use it and just adjust these to make it the look that we want. Once we have selected the color that we want for the pod we are in, we click done, and then we can move on to the next pod and do the same thing. Again, press the gear icon to pick a color. We can select the color and then press done and move on to another pod. Once we have the entire room the way we want it, we can save this to a scene on the bottom. Once it is saved to a scene, you simply can recall the scene and the lights will come back to the recorded level. Okay, after we've set the lights to the level that we want them, both intensity of your center light and your soffit light and your accent color, then we can save this to the scene button here. And after it has been saved to the scene button, then you can use this shortcut scene button to recall the lights for the customer just by pressing the scene button, and the lights will come back to their program level. We will be having all custom programming recording filtered through the Office request form that then tech will save to the system. So the scene buttons will only work if the customer has requested their looks to be programmed in advance. Otherwise, the controls will be available on a pod by pod basis. So we can control what each touch panel has available to it through this gear icon down here in the corner. When you press this, you'll only be able to make changes if you know the pin. But once we're into this setup screen, this allows us to tell this touch panel what it's allowed to control. So this touch panel is allowed to control all of the pods and the perimeter and the global presets, which are all on and all off and scene buttons at the bottom. But if I want to make it so that this touch panel can only control the pod that it's closest to, I can just simply uncheck all the other pods and hit done, and now this pod, this touch panel can only control pod 5 and nothing else. If you approach a touch panel and it does not have the controls that you need it to, then you touch the gear, enter the pin, and add check marks for the things you need to control that are not available at the moment, and then hit done, and now you can control everything. This setup can also be replicated on an iPad, so when we have classroom walls in, if the presenter needs control inside the classroom, we can supply an iPad, which will look exactly the same as this, and we will set it up so that that iPad in that classroom can only control that classroom and be able to adjust the lights in that room. And that is the Energy Hall lighting controls.